Good morning. My name is Lakin Hamilton, and my scientist biography assignment was Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr was born on October the 7th, 1885 in Copenhagen, Denmark. His mother, Ellen Adler, came from a prominent Jewish banking family, and his father, Christian Bohr, was actually nominated for the Nobel Prize twice, and he worked as a physiologist. On August the 1st, 1912, Niels Bohr married Margaret Norland. They had 6 sons, and only 4 of their sons actually survived into adulthood. And one of Niels Bohr's sons also went on to receive a Nobel Prize in physics for his research on the motion of particles in the atomic nuclei. In 1903, Niels Bohr enrolled at the University of Copenhagen, where he studied physics. He obtained his doctorate degree in 1911 from the University of Copenhagen with a dissertation focused on the electron theory of metals. After completion of his doctorate degree, he moved to England for further postdoctoral studies at Trinity College, Cambridge, under J.J. Thomson, who was the discoverer of the electron. And then he furthered his studies at the University of Manchester under Ernest Rutherford, who was the discoverer of the nucleus and the structure of atoms. In 1913, using Rutherford's theories as a base, Niels Bohr developed his model of atomic structures, which we now refer to as the Bohr model. This model describes a small positively charged nucleus surrounded by negatively charged electrons that travel in circular orbits around the nucleus. He compared this structure to the way that the solar system is described. But electromagnetic forces provide attractions of the electrons to the protons instead of gravity. He also introduced the theory that electrons travel in discrete orbits around the atom's nucleus, and that the chemical properties of a particular element are determined largely by the number of electrons in the outer orbit. He proposed an electron theory, hypothesizing that electrons could drop to a lower energy level by emitting a photon, or actually move up to a higher energy level by absorbing a photon. This demonstrated the chemical properties of elements results mainly from the behavior of the electrons occupying the highest stable orbit, which we now refer to as valence electrons. This theory was able to explain much of the periodic table's arrangement and structure, and founded a new scientific discipline which is now referred to as quantum chemistry. In the spring of 1917, Bohr wrote a letter to his faculty at the University of Copenhagen asking for the establishment of an institute for theoretical physics. The new institute was inaugurated on March the 3rd, 1921, and Niels Bohr served as the director of the institute for the remainder of his life. One of his most famous students was Werner Heisenberg, which later became a crucial figure in the development of quantum mechanics and head of the German atomic bomb project. He also helped to establish CERN, which is a Europe-based particle physics research lab. And in 1965, 3 years after Bohr's death, the Institute of Physics changed its name to the Niels Bohr Institute. In 1922, Niels Bohr was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his services in the investigation and structure of atoms and the radiation emanating from them. At the beginning of Hitler's rise to power, Bohr offered refuge at his institute in Copenhagen for German Jewish physicists in 1941. And then after Denmark became occupied by Nazi forces, the Bohr family fled to Sweden in 1943 and then subsequently to London. While in London, he worked on the project Tube Alloys, which was Britain's nuclear weapon program. And then he eventually escaped to the United States in 1944 with his son. Both father and son worked at the secret Los Alamos laboratory in New Mexico on the Manhattan Project, which was the first active bomb, atomic bomb, that was being developed by the United States. He worked under the pseudonym Nicholas Baker. He eventually became a senior consultant on the project, but he became very concerned and worried about the nuclear arms race and the level of potential destruction that this could bring to the world. He encouraged Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Britain, and also Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the President of the United States at the time, to have open communication between nations, because that these atomic secrets should be shared with the international scientific community. Eventually, after the war, he returned to Copenhagen and was awarded the Order of the Elephant, which is the equivalent to a knighthood in the United Kingdom, in 1947. And for the remainder of his life, he advocated for peaceful use of atomic energy. He addressed an open letter to the United Nations on June 9th, 1950. And eventually, the International Atomic Energy Agency was created in 1950. And then the Atoms for Peace Conference was established in 1955. In 1957, Niels Bohr received the Atoms for Peace Award for his theories and efforts to use atomic energy responsibly. Niels Bohr eventually died in Copenhagen on November 18th, 1962. He was 77 years old, and he died from complications after suffering a stroke. And just a fun fact, the element borium, with the atomic symbol BH and atomic number 107, was named in his honor. Thank you.